Tomorrow, we'll be celebrating the 250th anniversary of American independence. Joining us now to discuss this is Victoria Churchill, a political reporter at the Daily Mail. Victoria, great having you on. Let's start with a clip here from the president discussing what the founders of this nation really hoped to achieve as they drafted the Declaration of Independence. Watch.
A government that was honest and accountable was the number one demand of the Declaration of Independence. They want honesty, they want respect. And on this anniversary, we recommit ourselves to upholding that righteous legacy, and that's why.
So, Victoria, as someone who made the decision to become an American, what was it about this country that made citizenship so meaningful to you?
Well, thank you so much for the question. Thanks so much for having me on today. I absolutely love being an American. I think it's absolutely wonderful to be here on this nation's 250th anniversary, particularly because where my parents come from, my parents both grew up in the former Soviet Union, my mom in Russia and my dad in Ukraine. And, I think it just makes me so much more appreciative of our freedoms here in the U.S. Of course, one that I exercise all the time or one that I partake in is the freedom of the press just through my job, through being on shows like this, freedom of speech. And, the First Amendment is really critical. But I think also even other amendments like the Second Amendment, of course, is so important because I think we see even in nations that we're traditionally allied with that don't have the Second Amendment to protect their First Amendment freedoms. We see those being infringed upon even in countries like England, for example.
And, Victoria, people from across the world realize and understand that the U.S. is a country really unlike any other out there. What is it exactly about America that enables people to succeed and achieve their goals?
I think it's the fact that you can reinvent yourself and you can keep reinventing yourself. I've had a number of different jobs just throughout the past 10 years or so of my career, being from working in politics to then being a reporter. And I think just that idea that in America you can be whoever you want to be and achieve whatever you want to achieve, I think that's so unique. And, I've friends that travel and have even gone and lived in other countries, and they say that they don't have that people that live in those countries don't necessarily have as much of a drive for success and for, entrepreneurship and things like that we enjoy here in America, I think quite uniquely.
And, many nations have also tried to emulate what America has created here, but many have then also struggled to preserve that self-government over time. What is it about America and the American experiment that has made this so enduring?
I think a big part of it is what the president himself was just saying in that clip, the fact that we have a government that is accountable to the people. I think work that you and I do as journalists is so critical to that. For me, I love the part of my job where I get to go outside of Washington, D.C., even though primarily I cover Capitol Hill. I also get to be out on the campaign trail quite a bit and actually talk to real voters about what things they're frustrated about. And, a lot of the times that doesn't necessarily match up with what mainstream media outlets are talking about. I think that's important to get out there, particularly in the news media.
And that's where the freedom of press really shines, right?
Absolutely.
What's the biggest part of America's promise that you hope is still going to be true in the years to come?
Again, I think just the idea of wherever you were born in life isn't where you have to end up. I think that in so many other nations, how you're born determines where you're going to be in life. And in America, that's just absolutely not true. And I think that this idea of reinventing yourself is so critical. And, just the idea of really paving your own opportunities, I think is also very freeing in itself, right? When we talk about freedom, I think the ultimate freedom is freedom of choice and freedom of how you live your life. And people that live in so many other countries around the world don't get to enjoy that. And I think that that's something that we need to preserve, across the world. We see people that don't have those opportunities. And I think in the U.S., we are uniquely positioned to do that. And so when I see, even in my home state of Virginia, if there's infringement upon just the different pathways that people can have to success, whether that's, for example, cutting of gifted and talented programs in high school, that they're trying to kind of make a uniform system of education that doesn't really take people's skills, for example, into consideration of what they want to achieve in life and give them the opportunities to pursue that. I think it's important to highlight that and again, going back to where my family's from, in communist countries, people are treated like everybody is exactly the same, and there's no idea of individualism that people tap into. And so I think that is uniquely American.
Absolutely. And we're almost out of time here, Victoria, but I got to ask, what have you got planned for tomorrow?
I am going to be joining some great friends over at the Kennedy Center. They've graciously invited me to watch the fireworks from their rooftop, so I'm very excited to do that. I'm also excited that I will be around some air conditioning, so that's definitely another perk, as well as the views are definitely going to be great. I think one of the barges where the fireworks are coming off are going to be right off there in the river, so it's going to be a great event, I think.
Absolutely, and I'm hearing it's going to be like no other. Victoria Churchill, thank you so much for joining us, and happy 4th of July.
Thank you so much.